Today we're going to talk about restaurant etiquette, how you can dine out with elegance and also without making any faux pas. Hi, how are you? Welcome to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. I'm Juliana Santiago, a consultant, etiquette specialist, and co-founder of the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol, the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol. And in today's video, we're going to talk a little more about how to eat elegantly without embarrassing yourself at a restaurant. So I've put together some fundamental topics here that I want you to pay attention to the next time you eat out. Deal. The first point is to make sure you can afford to be there. I know it may seem simple, but often we're invited to a place we've never been before. So when you get this kind of invitation, the ideal thing is to do some research to learn more about the place. Some of them even have the menu available already with the prices. And then you can plan to be there, because what happens? If you get an invitation to go to a place but you can't afford to be there, do you think that establishment is too expensive? What happens? That situation ends up making you feel awkward. You end up getting nervous in some situations. If someone asks for something and you can't keep up, it makes you feel bad. Even in situations where everyone is going to pay for themselves, it's important that you are clear about where you're going. What is the average amount spent at that place? And don't be ashamed to do some research. Nowadays, social media can help us a lot. We can do some research on Instagram, on Facebook, and that gives us some direction so we can be informed and not feel embarrassed. Because that possible embarrassment of being in a place you can't afford will make you feel insecure. And it can end up creating situations where you'll be really embarrassed and it will end up being awkward for you. The second point is to show up at the scheduled time. When we talk about Brazilian culture, we really do have the habit of always arriving late, sometimes 20, 30, 40 minutes after the scheduled time. But when we make plans to go to a restaurant, whether it's for lunch or dinner, it's important that you focus on the agreed time. So try to stick to the scheduled time, and if you're going to be late, it's essential that you let them know about this possible delay. Another point that may seem simple, but it's essential for you to check before going to a restaurant is the dress code, right? So do some research on the dress code and try to match the attire of that establishment. So there are restaurants, for example, where we can't go wearing flip-flops and we have to wear closed-toe shoes. Men should wear pants and women should wear something more cocktail style, like a dress that can be knee-length or even a short dress, but something more refined and elegant. So it's important for you to check even so you can make a good impression. When you dress appropriately, you end up feeling better, and that's just how it is. What happens outside of you ends up reinforcing your image and your confidence, which is also inside you. So if you feel good about the outfit you chose to wear to that restaurant, you also end up conveying that through your behavior. So it's essential to look at it the same way. If you, for example, decide to go to a bar, it's a more casual outfit. And don't be embarrassed to ask. You can ask the person who invited you what the dress code is for the place. Or even look it up on social media. Also make sure to greet people appropriately. So when we're at a restaurant, most of the time we're sitting, so we're seated at the table. It might happen that you arrive before the other people who will be sharing that moment with you. Ideally, you should stand up to greet people as they arrive. Sometimes it might be difficult for you to stand up and go meet the person to shake hands, but you can pretend that you are going to stand up here. That gesture already shows respect, interest, and presence to the other person. It's as if you are sharing with the other person and introducing yourself to them. It's important to perform that greeting. And remember, regardless of the style of greeting you choose to use, it could be a wave, a handshake, a hug, something with touch. Always remember eye contact and a smile. I emphasize these 2 points in every video here on the channel because many times we end up going into autopilot and forget to show the person that they are important, that you enjoyed being there in that moment with them, that you appreciate sharing that place with that person. And this can happen especially with people you see very often. Sometimes you go out for lunch with a friend you see often or with a family member. And then the greeting practices end up becoming automatic. And you don't pay much attention to the process, especially to eye contact and smiling. And then when you get used to treating people like that, when you're in an environment where you don't know people very well and you're building relationships with others, if you're already used to not doing these things, when you meet someone you don't know very well, you end up not doing them either. So it's essential that you have this habit, even in everyday situations, with people you see all the time. Always remember to sit elegantly in a restaurant. Avoid pulling or dragging the chair and making a lot of noise. If you need to move the chair, ideally you should lift it even just a little to move it around. Ideally, you should always enter from the right side, but if that's not possible, you can enter from the left side as well. Another essential point is to be careful with the way you interact with the waiter. So, if possible, ask for his name if the waiter doesn't introduce himself or doesn't have a name tag. Ask for the person's name so you can always address them by their name. So you can establish that eye contact, that pleasant smile with the people who will be serving you during that moment. It may not seem like it, but the people who share the table with you are naturally observing you all the time. They observe how you treat them, how you treat the people who are there at the table with you, but they also observe how you treat other people. So be very careful if you want to stand out or try to show yourself as superior and treat other people that way. Like the waiter or anyone else who works on the staff at that restaurant in a rude and arrogant way, we should treat everyone in a courteous and kind way. And another practice which is always very courteous and very kind is to like the video you're watching here on the Etiquette and Protocol channel. Are you enjoying this content? Do you like the videos I post here? Recently, a lot of new people have joined the channel, and I'm very happy with those who just arrived, as well as those who have been following our channel for a longer time. Don't forget to follow me on Etiquette and Protocol's other social media as well. Just search for Etiquette and Protocol, and you'll find us on other platforms too. Returning to the waiter, I think there's something you may want to ask. And this question might come up. How do you call the waiter if he's far away? Well, ideally, you should make eye contact and wave. You don't need to wave your arms, snap your fingers, whistle, or shout. There's no need for that. Just make eye contact and give a discreet and elegant nod. Also, remember to keep your phone off the table. So, isn't it interesting that you shouldn't leave your cell phone on the table? On the table, we'll have the items we'll use for tasting. The wonderful dinner at that restaurant we chose so specially. When you leave your cell phone on the table, it's not just unhygienic. Because your cell phone is something you handle a lot and end up leaving there anyway, but it shows the other person that your priority is your phone. It's about what's happening there and not about that moment you have to make that connection to develop that relationship. So, always remember to keep your phone put away, never on the table. And other items too, like keys, medicine, accessories, sometimes paper. If it's a lunch you're having during work, or a shopping bag if you're having lunch at a restaurant or at the mall, that's not elegant. Having table manners is also something that will really stand out when we talk about behavior in restaurants. Many restaurants only provide a few items. When it comes to table setting, so here in this video, I brought a semi-informal table setting, but one that has more elements. But many times, the establishments only set the table with a charger plate and a napkin. Sometimes just a plate for the starter, and then they bring the main courses. In some establishments, we have a glass for water, a cup, and a wine glass. Some establishments keep the table cleaner, so that glasses and drinkware can be added according to the customer's needs. But it's important for you to have an overview and knowledge of each of the elements that are on the table. Here I have a placemat. Appetizer cutlery, both the fork and the knife, the main cutlery, the fork and the knife, a charger plate, a main plate, an appetizer plate, a napkin holder with a napkin. A glass or a goblet, okay, here there's a goblet, but it could be a glass and a wine glass. Juliana, if I'm at a restaurant and there's a wine glass on the table, does that mean I have to order wine at that restaurant? No, if that restaurant has a cocktail menu, if that restaurant has, for example, a white wine list, but the glass there is for red wine, or there's a sparkling wine menu, you can, yes, choose another option. Many times the restaurant leaves it there to make the table visibly set for its customers, which makes the environment much more prepared and welcoming to receive them. But you can choose whatever you like, even not drinking anything alcoholic, just having water, juice, something like that. Another point you also need to pay attention to at the table is your posture. So always remember to keep your back slightly away from the chair. They can't be 100% against the chair, because that makes it much harder to talk to the other people sharing the table with you, the conversation process, but also the actual eating part, the process at the table. Another important thing too when talking to people is to keep the utensils resting. So for example, if I'm here talking to someone, I have my main course. Look, I even took the other things away here so I leave it here so you won't be confused. I'm eating. I need to talk. Ideally, I should rest my utensils before talking to the person who is sharing the table with me. It's not polite to keep talking to other people while holding your utensils, okay? The same goes for glasses. If you need to drink, drink. If you don't want it anymore, you can set it down and so on. Deal? And if you want to go deeper into these table etiquette practices or even etiquette in restaurants, I recommend you join my etiquette and good manners training. There, you'll find a complete module where I talk about everything related to table manners. And there's also a module about behavior in restaurants where you'll learn and improve even more. It's a quick, didactic, and practical training where thousands of people have already had the opportunity to take this course and learn about modern etiquette in a simple, clear, and objective way. Do you want to join our training? All you have to do is point your phone at this QR code that's showing up here on the side, or click the first link in the description. Another important topic for us to talk about here is the issue of paying the bill. I know this topic is controversial, and as a rule, right? I don't know if I've already mentioned it here. But according to this etiquette rule, it's really the person who invites who should pay the bill. But of course, all of this will depend a lot on the context of that meeting. In that restaurant, for example, if you arrange with some friends to have coffee, to have lunch or dinner, it may already be implied that each person will pay for their own part. So it really depends on how that meeting, that occasion was arranged. For example, say you have a WhatsApp group with girlfriends and a lunch gets scheduled. That has a meaning of celebration, of gathering. It's not necessarily the person who suggested the idea who will pay for everyone. But there may be occasions when the person who actually made the invitation is celebrating something, wanting to do something special, and in that case, they might pay for everyone. That's why the first point I mentioned in this video is so important, right? I mentioned at the beginning that you should be comfortable with the place you're going to. You're able to pay the bill at that place Because it might happen that you think that person is going to pay for you, but you might be surprised, and that could make you uncomfortable, and you could end up leaving this situation in an uncontrollable way. And it's really important for us to be aware of where we are if we can actually be there, because that will certainly make us much more elegant and much more confident. And there are also some customs that we could mention in this video, as well as things that might make you feel embarrassed or insecure. And I'm sure that if you break these habits, it will help you a lot. And I made a video talking about this, and you just have to click here on the side to watch it right after this one.